Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, March 10th, 2025 meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. I'm Councilmember Jonathan Newsoma, subbing in for Councilmember Reid, who is running a little bit late. So let's get started by taking a roll call.
Absolutely.
Recording in progress.
Councilmember Ravel. Here. Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Wynn. Here. Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Newsoma.
Here.
Councilmember Reid. Councilmember Harkaris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
So we have a quorum in the room, and we do have two members participating remotely. Councilmembers Kelly and Harris are out of town at the not the Municipal League, the National League of Cities conference, which is an acceptable reason for participating virtually. So if someone would like to make a motion to allow them to participate.
I move approval that we allow Councilmember Harris and Councilmember Kelly to participate remotely.
Councilmember Harris is not on the committee.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Councilmember Kelly.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the room, and Councilmember Kelly online. If somebody would like to make a motion on the minutes from our last meeting.
I move approval of the minutes of the last P&D meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Wynn, seconded by Councilmember Ravel, that we approve the minutes of the February 24th meeting of the P&D Committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And that was an aye from Councilmember Kelly online. So the minutes are approved, which brings us to public comment. We have one person signed up online.
No, in the room.
In the room, or one person signed up on the green sheet of paper here. We might have some additional people online. So let's take Pamela Rosenbusch first. It's 2 minutes for this committee, right? 1, 2. All right.
Hello, I'm Pamela Powell Rosenbusch. I live at 1914 Grant Street, directly opposite the development. While other builders have been constructing homes and completing developments during the same period of 1 year under the same conditions, Mr. Wallach of Blue Paint Development has not built anything on Grant Street. Why is he different? Perhaps because his multiple companies' bankruptcies. Why would it be easier in the next 6 months to get the use of capital markets or that the mortgage environment improves? Personally, I think, as a retired head of 2 different commercial loan departments at 2 different banks, that those capital markets might be worse and the mortgage rates may rise. If you listen today, the stock market went down more than it has since 2022 today. There may be a reason the project hasn't started construction. I believe it is the bond required by the City of Evanston to protect us and to make sure Mr. Wallach when he starts the project, that he can complete the project of Grant Street. Please vote against this. Thank you for your consideration.
We've got some people online. Shelbert. I don't see him online. All right, we've got several people signed up for online participation. I don't see their names, but let's just go through them. John Mathis Shelbert is here in person. Okay.
And you said 2 minutes, correct?
2 minutes.
All right, I'll speak quickly. So good afternoon. My name is Joe Matthias Shelbert. I live at 1905 Grant Street, 2 doors east of the development. I am asking that this committee reject the extension request on 3 main data points. The first one is that these properties are extremely expensive and outside the norm of Evanston sales. Second, there's nothing affordable about these homes. In the last go around, people kept saying, we need affordable housing, we need affordable housing. There's nothing affordable about these. Third, the developer cannot get financing, and there's a reason for that. So let me break it down for the first part. It's too expensive for Evanston because what he's asking for is a $581 price per square foot for a 600 square foot property, where the average price for a detached home in Evanston is $329 per square foot, and the average price for an attached property is $281 per square foot. So he's almost at 2.5 times the amount. Second, this is not affordable housing. In order to be affordable, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac define that you have to earn 80% of the median income. In this neighborhood or this parcel tract, that means it's $87,000. In order to qualify at 50% DTI for a mortgage, you cannot borrow more than $330,000 if you're lucky, and even then you're considered what's called house poor. All your money is going into your property, and that's it. There's nothing affordable about that. And additionally, in that situation, under this pricing parameter without parking, you would have to bring in $15,000 to $20,000 simply to acquire this property. No affordable person who needs that kind of assistance can afford something like that. It's not affordable housing. Finally, the developer cannot afford financing because it's not viable. A bank is a true third-party evaluator, and they've all said no. Whether it's the cost, the development, doesn't matter. But the bottom line is, real quickly,
you.
I work in this industry. I've done commercial loans since 1993. My NMLS number is 2317762. I know what I'm talking about, and the banks can't afford to do this. So please deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia Beebe. Followed by... Followed by anybody?
Want me to go ahead?
Followed by nobody. So, Ms. Beebe.
I'm Cynthia Beebe. I live at 1915 Noyes Street, which is kind of directly through the block to the 1917 Grant Street proposed development that we're all talking about here. And I'm speaking on behalf of quite a few people in the neighborhood as well. So we're asking that you vote no on the request for an extension of the special use permit for David Wallach. Really, it's abundantly clear the financial markets have spoken here. And that's really the bottom line. But I'll say a couple other things. I can't imagine anyone has any optimism that the U.S. economy is going to do better in the next 6 months and mortgage rates will decline. Washington, D.C. is in chaos. It will certainly continue to be so. Also, the application for David Wallach, apparently he's now under a new LLC. I don't even know if that makes this project allowable. If you approve it under one LLC and he's now become another LLC, is your approval from a year ago even valid? I don't know, but that struck me immediately. How can you approve with a different company? Also, there is development going on. The same family that owns this lot owns a lot of lots in Northwest Evanston, and they're selling them all at the same time. One of the big lots, far west on Central Street, almost to Crawford Street, it has been sold. A bank has given financing, construction financing, to build what I would call a traditional multifamily unit. I don't have the exact number of that, but there is development happening for well-established, well-funded developers. This project is not among them.
15 seconds.
So, again, I would just say, on behalf of the 117 people who signed the petition a year ago, that you please deny the request by Mr. Wallach. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think that's all we have. According to our list, is there anybody else who wants to make public comment who might not have seen a list or might not have seen a sign up? Going once, going twice? Okay, that will... that public comment, and we will move on with the agenda with item P1. There we go. Are we good to go? All right. Public comment is over. We will move on with items for discussion. Continue with item P1. If somebody would like to make a motion on item P1.
I move P1 for discussion.
Second.
Item P1 has been moved by Councilmember Hakadas and seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Who wants to go first? We do have a presentation?
If you want to
Okay. Staff has a short presentation to make. Again, I'm pinch hitting as chair here, so apologies for playing catch up.
Thank you, committee members. Andrew Sanroman, Building and Development Services Manager. I did put together just a few slides just for some background and what staff is looking for direction on exactly. Just to give a little bit of background, currently, let me see if this works. There we go. Okay, thank you. Currently, there are 226 short-term rentals listed in the city of Evanston. We currently have 14,309 long-term rentals, just for comparison between the two. Looking at the next slide, just to show our current review process, a vacation rental license only goes before this committee if it's not for the owner's primary residence. There are certain standards that need to be met on the next slide. Whether there's going to be a negative cumulative effect if there are other vacation rentals in the neighborhood, the effect on adjoining properties, whether it complies with rules and regulations, how it will affect public health, welfare, or safety. And then there's also city council may deny it upon a finding that such denial is in the public interest, even if it meets those other standards. So a couple of things that staff needs some direction on, especially given the referral from Councilmember Herakaris and others. The ordinance currently uses the term owner's primary residence, but there is no criteria given for that determination. So how we would define owner occupied exactly, or an owner's primary residence, brings up questions. Would a unit qualify if the owners occupy it during the summer but leave for the winter? Would a detached coach house qualify if the owners live in the front? Would units in a multi-unit building qualify if the owner lives in that building? And then what proof would an owner occupant need to provide when they apply to show that they are actually occupying the residence? A couple more questions. The definition of a vacation rental, we currently define it as a dwelling unit or portion thereof offered for rent for a period shorter than 30 consecutive days. Many other municipalities use the term short-term rental to more accurately convey the use as opposed to vacation rental. Some short-term rentals are rented for more than 30 days, so they wouldn't qualify under this ordinance currently. But many are offered on some of these hosting platforms for traveling nurses or visiting professors who might need a place for 3 months or 4 months. So is there room for that within the short-term rental ordinance, or would it be worth amending it? Also, the code currently exempts units that will be rented for no more than one rental period per dwelling unit per 12-month period. But tracking that and enforcing that is very difficult. Whether somebody has only rented out their place once is difficult to ascertain. Also, regarding the standards, the existing standards that we went through are vague. They allow for some subjectivity there. Also, the statement that city council may deny it if it's in the public interest. Public interest isn't defined, which has the potential to lead to inconsistent application of the ordinance. And so any amendments to it we would propose need to be objective, clear, well-defined, that allows staff to better enforce it. And it also allows clarity to prospective home buyers and property owners so that they know what they're expecting when they apply for a vacation rental. Also, with regard to the referral for any applications that are currently under review, what would be done with those applications if the decision was made to disallow non-owner occupied vacation rentals? Excuse me. And lastly, the penalty structure. Currently, there is a structure of 200 for the first violation, 500 second, 750 for the third or subsequent. And it says each day a provision is found, but it's not clearly defined what that would mean in the case of a vacation rental. We have obtained this software, like we talked about at the last meeting, to identify vacation rentals that are not currently in compliance. So we were going to send out notices to them, giving them 60 days to submit a license application. Rather than retroactively looking back and finding them for any times that they have rented in the past, our thought was to give them 60 days to submit a license application. Then it'd be a $200 fine. If another 30 days goes by, then up to 500, then up to 750. So that's what staff is proposing, and just in general looking for some clarity from this committee and city council on what you'd like us to do.
Thank you. Councilmember Herakaris.
Well, thank you for some of the clarification in the slides. I think, this is something that like a year ago when we had the moratorium on approving these, I think that year went awfully quickly. I wish we would have had this discussion 6 months earlier, and I'd say it's on us here in council. But this is a good discussion to have. As far as I'm concerned, I think, I have an underlying frustration with the fact that housing is a commodity, and that contributes to, rising home costs, rental costs, and I think the vacation, short-term, VRBO rentals contributes to that. This really, a couple weeks ago, it was flagged for me because I saw an address on a house, and a coach house in the 5th Ward that was bought by someone on the North Shore as a investment property. And so, that's 2 units for 2 families that could potentially be living in Evanston, and there's plenty of people looking for housing. Now, if someone's owner occupied, that's a much different scenario in my mind. I do like. I think we should be fairly open with that, as long as they're on the property, and proving it. I think, driver's license and bills. That's kind of standard. I know people's driver's license don't always match where they're living, but that's something as a adult, you have to change that. I know it's a pain. As far as if we were going down the list here, the fines, I don't ever want us to be punitive. So I think, this is a grace period, and I think we'll find out a lot more information when we get the applicants. But I think having the 60-day grace period and then reevaluating for me makes sense. I think you all had a good point about covering the one time, no more than one. That seems impossible to track. So I think we shouldn't be tracking that. That just is going to cause more work. But I guess I'll stop there and let my colleagues talk.
Well, excuse me. We've had concerns expressed at the committee level several times over the term I've been on the council. So going back definitely several years, with concerns about vacation rentals taking up affordable housing, and especially I think we especially get irritated when it's an outside developer. I mean, one example in particular, the gentleman who owned several apartments in a neighborhood in Evanston lived, I want to say, in the mountains of the West. I mean, he wasn't anywhere close, and it just seemed wrong that he was turning these really affordable units into an investment for him. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of vacation rentals with us for a long time, because we can't tell somebody who's invested in a vacation rental, fixed it up, and been operating it for quite some time. We can't say, well, tomorrow you have to shut down your investment. So I think it will help once we really know how many vacation rentals we really have. And
226.
yeah, okay. And I have no idea, no way of measuring whether that's a reasonable number.
Is that 226 licensed or 226 total?
226 that are listed on hosting platforms right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so those obviously, well, if they respond within 60 days, they can get in by our deadline to become official. Yeah, I mean, there's some cases where we want to be able to have short-term rentals. I mean, we had the example, I think, mentioned in the packet about visiting nurses and various kinds of people who really do need a short-term place to stay. So an option. I'd be interested in knowing what our local hotels think about vacation rentals. So I'd say we have a lot of further discussion. And so with respect to the referral, today at the committee, we referred it to the HCDC. Just thinking it might require a lot more back and forth and research rather than leaving it at P&D.
Right.
I'm sorry, could you clarify that? Has this already been referred to HCDC?
We just did that
Okay.
a few minutes ago, right?
All right, so the referrals, you're reporting from the referrals committee that Alderman Hedekaitis' referral has been
Right.
assigned to HCDC.
Right, right,
Okay.
yes.
And that will take care of the eventual long-term fix, which is a partial answer to staff's questions tonight. I think you probably still like some guidance on the proposed enforcement of the current ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Councilmember Kelly online, and then Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you. I am concerned that we have a lot more than we're aware of. We still do not even have a list of rentals that have been registered, which doesn't seem like it seems like we should have that. So I'm quite sure that we're going to have a lot more of these than we're aware of. And I think staff, I don't really see a lot of recommendations. Can you maybe specify I only see the one regarding fines, but what I think we really need to see, there are plenty of other cities that have this sort of an ordinance, and I think staff fully understands our intentions, which is to have housing that's available and not to have institutional, property owners coming in, or maybe not even institutional, but people moving away and keeping their house as a VRBO while they live in another state, and maybe taking, units offline that could maybe otherwise be more affordable. So I think we really need to look at a couple of good samples from other cities and see how they're doing and see what we like about them and maybe how we would modify it for Evanston. And I'm sorry, where are we at right now in terms of the moratorium on non-owner occupied?
The moratorium is currently no longer in effect. The way the moratorium was written, it was in effect until we had a contract with a provider who could help us identify vacation rentals. So we already have that contract, so the moratorium is no longer in effect.
Okay, I guess I would want to extend the moratorium until we establish, until we establish our ordinance on this. That's what I'd like to see. And I don't know if anybody else feels similarly, but I think right now, this is really important. And I think our concerns are very important around the impacts of the non-owner occupied short-term rentals. And I think there's a lot of ways we can accommodate the things like if nurses come in or professors. Didn't we approve the hotel on, I think it's the Helene's Hotel, doesn't that have long-term rental? Aren't those units, those apartments
The
for
former
hotel
King
apartments?
Home on Oak Street was approved as an extended stay hotel.
Yeah, so we have that in Evanston. And what I would say with that concern is certainly there could be variances if we needed more. Someone could come and apply for special use in that case. If there was something in that sort of a situation that we felt was really needed for our community and our city. But otherwise, I don't see that that's a reason not to move forward with an ordinance that prohibits non-owner occupied short-term rentals.
Right.
And I think we just need to look to other cities. There's plenty of them out there. And again, I hope that we can at least extend the moratorium so that in the event that this goes on for a while, trying to iron it out, we aren't, seeing a lot more of these added to our housing stock. Thank you.
Councilmember Wynn, and then Councilmember Hedekaitis.
Well, I do think this needs a lot more discussion, and sending it to the HCDC is the right thing to do. I also like what the staff has described as the penalty provisions going forward. So, but I do think we need to clean up the ordinance in terms of the definitions and get rid of the vagueness. We were pretty sloppy. And I don't know that imposing a moratorium right now is legally possible or whether that makes sense. But since I do think we should get the ones that are operating without a license, make sure that they are licensed as quickly as possible.
Councilmember Hedekaitis.
Question for staff. What was could you share a little bit of the language that was given to the people who applied and knew there was a moratorium and what they've been told, just so we a little bit more aware of that.
What do you mean by the language that was given?
So we've had people apply during the moratorium. What was the feedback they were given as to when they would be heard, or when decisions would be made around their applications?
They were told that there was a moratorium on applications for non-owner occupied.
Yeah.
And that their applications would not be forwarded until the moratorium was up.
Okay, great.
Just to quickly, but we've reestablished contact with there was one resident in particular who was well along in getting a property ready for a vacation rental, and we said, too bad, and I hope we've reached out to her.
Yes, I can't speak for that particular resident, but we have reached out to those who had applications.
Director Flax?
And we do have the two that were first considered at the last P&D that we are bringing back on the 10th. No, 14th. First
April 14th.
April 14th.
And roughly how many do we have coming to our committee?
Applications currently?
Yeah.
So there are those two that are currently before P&D, and then we also have right now 11 others that have applied.
Okay.
They're currently under review, so they have not
yeah.
been brought before P&D yet.
And you know, I've read over our current ordinance multiple times, like this weekend, to see and what I feel like adverse effect. I think for me personally going forward, I think it is a big enough negative effect on the community that I'm going to just be a no in general, and I'll just throw that out there. But I do feel HCDC, this is where we have to dig into it, because there is a lot of, there is, and I was really glad that Councilmember Reid brought up, traveling nurses and, people who do need longer short-term rentals. And that's something I think we should really get on our agenda soon. So, and I think, is there any more direction?
Councilmember Kelly
Jim.
has her hand raised.
So I just want to understand, well, one, it's so important that we publish these lists so that, that we have a list of those who are registered rentals, those that are registered, short-term rentals or whatever they're registered as. These should be available. That is a very easy way to improve enforcement. So I hope that happens soon. And then I also just, maybe if Corporation Counsel can answer, why would having extending the moratorium be potentially illegal? I mean,
A question for Council Ruggie.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly. Alex Reggie, Corporation Counsel. I think we couldn't perhaps not extend the moratorium tonight because that item was not on the agenda, but we can certainly bring it back to extend the moratorium. This was only on the agenda for discussion.
okay, well, we do a lot of things though that aren't that are on for discussion, like voting to permanently vacate a civic center. Okay, so the other question then is, would it be, so that's one question, so that's good to know. And then thank you. The other question is, is it illegal to to not grandfather people in? Like, say we did that to give people a certain amount of time. I mean, if we do have a lot of VRBOs in town and we really do want to start to provide more availability for permanent living spaces for folks, is it illegal to not grandfather people in? Like, how does that, I understand you need some time, and I understand the predicament that it presents. I just am questioning the legality around that.
So it's something I'm happy to look into. I'm not sure if it's, technically illegal as much as it would open up the city for civil liability.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would just be curious to know how that would stand legally. In the event that nobody wants to extend the moratorium, and then we end up with a whole lot more of these, and we'd like to start to turn that around. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the committee? All right, so let me just summarize the feedback that I think this committee is giving staff. With regards to the long-term fix, that is going to HCDC for a lot more homework. It's been suggested by some committee members that we should look at what other municipalities are doing. I'm sure that's already on staff's radar to do that and bring that work to HCDC. Meanwhile, the proposal for enforcement of the currently unlicensed rentals is being received and accepted by this committee. Am I accurately capturing the sense of this committee? Great. All right. Thank you so much.
Just to be clear, we will continue processing applications then and presenting them to the Planning and Development Committee as per the current ordinance.
Okay. As is currently allowed.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item P2, which is Ordinance 25025, extending the time for the application to obtain a building permit to construct the efficiency home development at 1915 through 1917 Grant Street, previously authorized by Ordinance 18024. If somebody would like to make a motion on this.
I move approval.
It's been moved by Councilmember Ravel, seconded by Councilmember Nguyen. Is there any discussion?
I think maybe we have a presentation from the applicant.
Correct. So is there a staff presentation?
No, there's
No staff presentation. We do have a brief presentation from the developer. Please go ahead.
Discussion at least.
Thank you. David Wallach on behalf of the applicant. And just a brief update on where we're at. We come before you asking for an extension. The language in the previous approval was that we'd have our permits by this date. Want to let everybody know that we are in for permit currently. We have all of our financing in place for the project, not just for a few units, but for all 12 units in place. We begin construction as soon as the permit gets issued by the City of Evanston. We will have demolition starting under that permit and tree removal almost immediately. We did hear some feedback from councilmen about somebody had complained about some debris that was in the back. We have taken care of that issue this morning as well. So that was the first that we heard about it. So we've been attentive. The capital markets over the last year have been quite difficult. We're worked very hard to get to this point. This isn't a cookie cutter project that you go out for. It's not an affordable housing project, right? I think I've said that once or twice. This is a for-market project that is extremely well received right now. If you call Sotheby's, who's marketing this for us, they get more phone calls on this project than anything in their office. We have 2 pre-sales, we have 6 reservations, and more people chomping in the bit, just waiting for us to break ground, and we're just waiting to break ground. So we're excited to be on the right side of this missing middle housing conversation, and we appreciate the support.
Thank you. Anybody on the committee? Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. So I don't know, Ms. Ruggie, if you could let me know what, I could only support this if it went back as a planned development. I think that nobody does it. I think, pocket communities, neighborhoods are wonderful, but we should do it right. This is our first one here, and this really deserves, and the neighbors deserve it, and the project deserves, proper oversight. It should have overview of design. There should be a site plan of the architecture to make sure that the architecture relates to the architectural character of the neighborhood, the landscaping, all of that. So I guess my question is, and also, by the way, we did vote to have one of those units be affordable. I wanted 2, but we voted on 1. So I don't know if the owner remembers that, the developer.
Yes, there is an acknowledgement that one will be affordable.
I'm sorry, and even more to that point, Councilman Kelly, it's a very important point that you raised. We've been over the year in touch with Marion Johnson in inclusionary housing, and spoke to her last week. And what she'll tell you is, while there is a long list of people for apartments on it, the city currently has no list from developers like ourselves having an inclusionary housing 2-bedroom for sale. And she's extremely excited about getting that listed, and has a number of people that have been banging on the door to do it. And And this dais is on the right track. I think if you talk to, I don't want to speak for anybody at the city, but you need more inclusionary housing units for sale. You just don't have any right now, unfortunately.
Right,
And this
thank
is
you.
a
I had
good
asked for
step in that
two, just
direction.
for the record. I wanted two here. We got one, but nevertheless, I don't think this is missing middle. That's not who's going to be buying these. But anyway, apart from all that, this absolutely should be a planned development. So is there any way, Corporation Council Ruggie, that this can be replaced, like a replacement motion, that this come back as a planned development so we can do this right? It can receive the proper review, the proper site review, architecture, the landscaping, even drainage. I mean, there's so much that needs to be reviewed to do this right. How could that work legislatively?
Corporation Counsel?
Yeah, so it's something we can look into. We would have to change the zoning code and add the zoning code to include these homes into the zoning code as planned developments. I recall this coming up when this was before the council previously, and based on the community development department and the application that was submitted, it was put through as a special use. So the only thing that we can do legislatively here today is vote on extending that special use permit or not.
I mean, could this be held? I guess I know that the Land Use Commission voted that this should be a planned development, but unfortunately I know our council voted contrary to that and made it a special use. But could I motion to hold this, that it come back that as a review for as a planned development?
Well, you can't motion to hold at planning and development, but you can do a motion to table. My understanding is based on the timeline of the applicant that this is, needed to be done, I believe, tonight. Otherwise, the special use permit will expire.
Okay, so I do feel this has been done very improperly. So I would like to table this and have this come back as a planned development out of respect to the project itself, doing a pocket neighborhood, our first one, doing it right, and also with respect to all the neighbors and everyone else. I think this is very corporate.
Councilmember Kelly, if I could be clear with Council Ruggie's support here of what the procedure would look like. If this committee agrees to recommend extension to City Council, then this ordinance would go to City Council. But in order for it to really take true effect, we would have to suspend the rules tonight and allow introduction and action to happen this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And suspending the rules at council requires a unanimous vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
So Councilmember Kelly, are we to understand that if this does advance from this committee to City Council, that you would or would not be amenable to suspending the rules?
To suspend the rules to allow for an extension? No, I would not be amenable. I mean, I think we can bring the same project back as a planned development, and I want to support a pocket community. I think a lot of people do. It's a wonderful concept, but I think we should do it right. So no, I would not be amenable to moving this forward and extending.
Council Ruggie, and then we have some committee members.
I apologize. I just double checked the rules and it said that it's 2/3 vote of the council members present, except for Rule 20.1.
2/3 of the members.
Let me check
present.
20.1. Hang on.
Is required to suspend the rules?
Okay, yes. For 20.1 is unanimous. Sorry.
Okay, so it would require a unanimous vote of council members present to suspend the rules. Councilmember Ravel and then Councilmember Reid.
Well, I think what Councilmember Kelly would like to see is, in fact, that we deny the extension of the special use permit and ask the developer to go through the process again, but as a planned development. So, which is obviously in conflict with the proposal tonight to suspend the rules and extend the special use permit.
And Councilmember Ravel, we would also have to change the zoning code to allow for that to be a planned development prior to the applicant being allowed to do that. The current zoning code specifies that this is a special use.
Okay. I guess I thought the Land Use Commission basically suggested that it be proposed as a planned development. Am I?
Correct.
Whoops, there we go.
Good evening, Liz Williams, for the record. The City Council did approve a text amendment in conjunction with the applicant's request to change the process for reviewing these types of development from a planned development to a special use. So our code currently today reads that this type of development, should it be processed or an application be received tomorrow, would follow the special use process. So it would take a referral from the City Council to revert our ordinance back to that planned development process to process this as a planned development.
But the question was regarding the LUC, Ms. Williams, not council.
I'm sorry.
Councilmember
Ravel has the floor. After that, it's Councilmember Reid.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry, wasn't recognized. Okay. Thank you, Chair Newsmith, for the telepathic recognition. I actually
Let the record reflect Councilmember Reid is now present.
Oh, yes. I would like to understand, Councilmember Kelly, your concern here with the project. I understand that you want to stop it here, but can you share why?
Certainly. Certainly. I expressed this before when this came up before. I want to support the idea of a pocket community. I want to make sure we do it right so it's successful. And that involves putting it through as a planned development. These are 12 houses. This isn't one house or two. These are 12. And this is really what would be considered a planned development. The Land Use Commission overwhelmingly said that they wanted this to be a planned development so that it could be properly reviewed to make sure that the landscaping is right, that the orientation of the architecture is appropriate, all of that. That doesn't get that sort of review at council. And I want to support it, but I don't want to support it in this way. I don't want to support pushing it through without, as a special use, just without that proper oversight. And that's all. And I just think that's how we should do things, especially when we want to do something new like this. Let's do it right. Give it the proper time it needs. Make sure it gets to the right people to review it. And that's all.
Thank you for that. So the reasoning that I'm hearing is that you're claiming that Land Use Commission said that this should be a planned development. Is there anyone from Land Use Commission or staff that can verify whether or not that's what Land Use Commission said? I think we got that answer already, but let's just.
Looks like Liz is looking it up.
Yeah, so the Land Use Commission, I think, had the two cases before them. It was for the text amendment and for the special use. And my understanding, and I would have to go back to the minutes to confirm this, but they voted no on the text amendment because they did not feel at that time that they could make that recommendation absent of, I believe, having a project like this. It was like procedurally, they couldn't say yes to making this shift. And that I think there was a sentiment on the Land Use Commission, at least some of them, that they wanted this to be processed as a planned development. So I believe Councilmember Kelly is correct that they voted no on the text amendment to change the process to a special use. That recommendation came forward to the City Council for your consideration, and the City Council voted yes on the text amendment to make this a special use process. So that was the first vote that Council took, and then they took a subsequent vote on the special use application by Mr. Wallach and voted yes on that as well.
Good.
When we were in front of Land Use Commission, for them to have approved our submission, they would have needed to have found something in the ordinance currently that would allow them to give us that. At the time that we were in front of Land Use Commission, the efficiency code only allowed a 500 square foot unit. Because of our work with inclusionary housing to change the efficiency code from 500 square feet to 600 square feet, there was nothing in the code that allowed the Land Use Commission to vote in favor of what was in front of them. That was the reason that they could not vote in favor of it. If you go back, there were 9 different areas that that they follow in there. And there was overwhelming support, except for the fact that as a technical matter, because there was nothing found in the ordinance at that time, they could not vote in favor of it. Now, going in front of them and discussing the PD part, and we had a lot of conversation about this a year ago, is one of the big reasons why you don't have attainable housing in your community is because of things like this, is because of lack of expectation on a developer coming to get a project that is attainable for people, actually committed and built. And it's one of the biggest hurdles going forward. When we were asked by staff from day one whether or not we thought this should be a PD or we should go ahead and ask this dais and the city council to change its ordinance, we said that the city should change its ordinance to allow this type of housing to occur. And that's why we wound up in that spot. As for oversight, there is a full set of building plans on file. We have worked with the city on drainage and sorts on the civil side and gotten preliminary approval for all of our civil plans going into it. So all of that has been taken care of.
Thank you for that.
Is there anybody else on council, on the committee, who wishes to weigh in? And public comment is closed, so apologies, but
Yeah, I'm going to wrap up here.
Councilmember Reid.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification, Liz. So it seems like the Land Use Commission's push for this to be reviewed as a plan development was more of a application of looking at the code as it was when they were reviewing it, but now that the code has been changed, it seems like they would review it under the same standards that we are reviewing it under now. And this council duly adopted the text amendment to allow for that. I would encourage my colleagues who have, well, first let me ask, this project is in the 7th Ward and Councilmember Revell's ward. Sorry, I missed the very beginning, but is my understanding correct that you support this project, that you're ready to vote yesterday?
There we go. Well, I think the real question is, can we have a unanimous vote at council to suspend the rules? And my sense is that we don't have that unanimous vote.
I guess my question is, are you ready to vote to suspend the rules?
I think I'm going to suggest that we vote no on the proposal here at P&D, so it doesn't have to go on to city council and ask people to continue to, come here to talk to us about it.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Revell. I think it would be, I'll close here. We're engaging in our Envision Evanston 2045 process. We're engaging in comprehensive zoning changes, all for the goal of increasing affordability here in Evanston, increasing the efficiency of our land use, and making sure that we're getting more out of the limited land that we have here. And I think this project achieves that, or those goals. And, no project is perfect that I've ever voted on. But I think this project is moving in the right direction. And I would encourage us to move this forward, to vote yes here. If folks do not want to suspend the rules at council, I think, we'll figure that out then, but I would encourage this committee to move this forward. And then lastly, why, if this has to be adopted today and we have to suspend the rules, and if we don't, the project's going to, the funding is going to be pulled, whatever it is, why is it coming to us with, this pressure?
Well, because the special use permit expires tomorrow.
I get that, but we've presumably known that the special use permit was going to expire tomorrow for the last year or so. And so why, I'm just curious why, and this isn't really for you unless you have the answer, but I guess it's more for staff or for the developer. Why is this coming to us with only one meeting to make a decision?
I want to apologize for that. I didn't realize that part was the case. So in the discussions about suspending the rules or not suspending the rules, that was kind of an afterthought to get it done in one step. We did not object to it going
I'm not really
forward.
asking about the procedural thing.
Well,
Just-
that was the part. And as it relates to the permitting part of it, we didn't want to go ahead and submit for a permit and go through all of it without knowing 100% that we had all the financing in place that we needed in order to do it. We didn't want to take that step and kick the can down the road. We wanted to be sure we had it. And that just came about recently. And that's the honest answer to the question. So as soon as we knew that our financing was in place, we came back to the city. This came up as an issue that it wasn't just the application for the permit, but the actual issuing of the permit that was required. And that's why we made the application when we did.
Thank you. Can I have staff also translate a bit for me?
Sure. So we've been in contact with the applicant frequently throughout the last year to check in on the status of the project, find out what's going on. We emailed the applicant, I believe it was late 2 weeks ago, to let him know that he was approaching the deadline and that if he was going to receive an extension, we needed a request from him formally. And at this point in time, it would require intro and action at the same meeting, because if not, it would be the action on the extension would be after March 11th, which is a year from when the approval took place. So we've since this has come up, and we obviously want to have more notice on these types of issues in the future. So we've put into place some internal tracking mechanisms to give our staff internally 180 days before an applicant would approval would expire. And so now moving forward, we will have that check in place. But in this one, it just came up very last minute, and let Mr. Wallach know that if he wanted to continue to see the project move forward, he would need to request intro and action at the March 10th meeting.
Thank you for that. No further. I encourage a yes vote still. And I think that now that we have these new procedures in place, I think we can hold folks accountable to more timely filing for extensions. I don't think that this is, it's not that I don't think, I know this isn't the best process, clearly. So I would encourage us to move forward here to support affordability. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilmember Kelly?
I just wanted to remind folks that I was the one that motioned to have at least one land trust home on this property. There's nothing, absolutely nothing that will preclude moving forward. I would like to see even more. I would like to have this come forward and get 2 on there out of 12. Again, I won't be supporting this because of, again, I feel like this absolutely should have been gone through as the Land Use Commission recommended as a planned development. We can have the same product, but a better one that it has better oversight that's going before letting the right people review this carefully. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, I think we are ready for a roll call.
Just waiting for just something from Corporation Counsel. Oh, no? I'm sorry.
Good.
Sorry.
All right, I think we are ready for a roll call.
Councilmember Ravel,
No.
Councilmember Wynn,
No.
Councilmember Kelly,
No.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Reid,
Aye.
Councilmember Harakaris,
No.
By a vote of 4-2, item P2 fails to pass, and this will not move on to City Council.
Point of order, as far as this not moving on to City Council, I do recall Corporation Council made a determination that items cannot have their final place in committee. Is that for standing committees as well? And
So that is specific to special use permits because city council rules on them. An amendment to a city council permit can die in committee.
okay, thank you.
I have one.
All right, so there being no further business to come before this committee, I will declare us adjourned at 6:15, and city council will start at 6:30.